Williams. He's a man with a common name who is an uncommon human. I know, I saw that. He is the Scout Executive of the Great Smoky Mountain Council. He was raised in Memphis and is married to Amy, his high school sweetheart. They have been married for 27 years and have two amazing adult children, Grace and Luke. David began scouting in the 3rd grade, and for those of y'all who are counting, that was 46 years ago. He also proudly served our country in the Army. He has a Bachelor of Arts in Journalism with a concentration in advertising. He's a graduate of Leadership Knoxville class of 2018, and I hear him saying best class ever, even if he doesn't say it out loud. Leadership East Tennessee found him as a graduate in 2021. While in college, he was a member of the Fiji fraternity and had already begun his service work through the Student Government Association. In 2024, David received the Order of the Arrow Distinguished Service Award. This is a very special award. It has only been given to 1,200 people since its inception. David once said, "All of the things you want out of leaders in your family, your community, and the nation, that's really what Scouts do." He impacts the lives of young men and women and herds cats in 21 counties that comprise the Great Smoky Mountain Council. He helps to create opportunities in shaping leaders, and he builds the character of his Scouts and their families. He also does this thing that he's passionate about, in which I know nothing about, and probably most of y'all in the room are like, I don't know what this is, geocaching. When I was thinking about words to describe our friend, I came up with the following list: family man, leader, loyal, servant, loving, hilarious, dedicated, driven, humble, popcorn pusher, Rotarian, traveler, kind, and teacher. Now, hopefully, he can teach us something about this geocaching thing.
So this will not be about scouting, although this scouting put me into this hobby or addiction. I have the pleasure of herding cats in 21 counties. Is Lynn still in the room? Yeah. What do you have? 46. So it is fun to sit down with Lynn over coffee. I've tried to get her to drink bourbon, but we seem to have coffee and compare notes. I don't think.
Because you only ask me for in the morning.
You don't start drinking in the morning, you can't drink all day. Amy's online to keep me honest, because like fishing, geocaching stories can get a little bigger as the story goes on. So how did we get here? I think one of the best programs we do, or if not the best, the most fun program we do was done, and I was lucky that my schedule lined up. I didn't know what I was walking into. We set at tables, and one of the questions was, who's got the most bizarre hobby at the table? And so mine was one of the ones that's highlighted. So we're going to talk about geocaching, and I think it's best to let a video describe it, at least from their marketing department. Let's skip that ad in 3 seconds. Skip it now. Well, we're glad that Allison's web browser only brings up Florida. Here we go.
Anytime that can take you to amazing and beautiful places, or even just to a place in your town that you've never been before. There are millions of geocaches worldwide, There are probably even some near you right now. Yes, you. To start finding them, just get out your phone or GPS. Go ahead. I'll wait. Then, create a free geocaching account and you're ready to go. The way it works is simple. Just choose the geocache you want to find and navigate to its location. What you're looking for varies. Geocaches come in different sizes, shapes, and difficulties. Geocaching isn't always easy, so it's okay to get excited when you discover the cache. After finding it, sign the logbook, trade knickknacks if you want, and log your find online. When you're done, put the geocache back where you found it, and you're on to the next one. But hey, it's the other way. There's an adventure happening all the time, all around you. Become a part of it at geocaching.com.
Okay, I saw sandals and poison ivy. I don't know about you. So we can stop, right? That's it. So a cache is a temporary storage area, right? Whether it's online for IT world or that box. Geo is Earth, so thus the name geocaching. It is pronounced, by the way, in Australia, geocaching. And why? Because there's a podcast. Because you can't have a hobby without competing podcasts. So it is, Bill Powell asked me about it, is this hide and seek or treasure hunt? That is what it is. It's an online, but bringing into the real world an online treasure hunt. So they are cleverly hidden, I think is what it was written. And there are over 3 million hidden worldwide. And that was a number, they had 3 million in 2023. So 2 years ago, there were 3 million. I pulled a previous presentation that was 2013. It's the earliest one I'd kept, and there were only 1 million worldwide in 2013. So in 12 years, there have been 2 million more planted, hidden out there. And they're hidden by people who play the game, not the holding company that owns it. And to hide a cache, we suggest that you've at least found 100 of them. So you kind of have an understanding, and then you have to go through an online tutorial. You agree that you understand it. And once you've hidden it and you've submitted it, then a volunteer reviewer somewhere in our state reviews it and says, yeah, this meets the standards. So an interesting thing in the state of Tennessee is you cannot play a game in a cemetery. So geocaching is against the law if you're in a cemetery. I've been stopped by at least 3 police officers since 2009. One, I was in a suit and an overcoat, and it was during lunch, and massive cemetery in Nashville, but there's a city park that is like right inside the center of it, right on the edge. And it was a grandfather geocache, and I'm looking inside the city park that is smaller than this room, and a police officer stopped me, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I explained, and he goes, "Let me guess, you're an attorney, a doctor." And I was like, "No." I'm a Boy Scout. He goes, "Oh, do you know so-and-so?" And I was like, "Yeah, but please don't tell him." I am on my lunch break, right? And this was in the height of my addiction. So they do get published by a volunteer, and so this is totally an open community that has to abide by a certain set of rules, if you will. But this is the best definition. It's a sport where you use multi-million-dollar satellites to find rubber maid in the middle of the woods. That is legitimately the truth. And you can thank Bill Clinton for it. So here's a bit of history. So the GPS system was developed by the DOD in May 1, 2000. Clinton's administration turned off selective availability. So the military had pretty decent, availability where it would come down to the 20-foot, capacity. The general population did not. So this engineer out in Portland, Oregon area named David Ulmer had his GPS receiver and actually watched it go from 300 feet to 20 feet overnight. And 2 days later, he decided he was going to go hide this 55-gallon bucket in the woods, which today there's a roadside marker and a nice bronze plaque, and people from all over the world go and take a picture with this bronze plaque on the ground in Oregon. But he called it the Great American Stash Hunt. The interesting piece is Jeremy Irish is the guy who went and founded the first, and he's the one that's capitalized off of it and made it into a profitable business. He and another friend have bought out Ulmer and created geocaching.com, and it's in a holding company named Groundspeak, and they have all the licensing and create all the merchandise. So they've made the money off of it. But what's interesting, 8 days after Ulmer publishes the first one on a IT bulletin board, right? He puts it out there on this bulletin board. Hey, I've hit this. Here are the coordinates. See if will anybody go find it. Irish goes and finds it. 8 days later, the third one is hidden in Mingo, Kansas, which is right off the interstate. It is still hidden there. It is still there today. And it's still active, and people from all over the world stop on this interstate exit in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, and go find this geocache. If you ever said to our children, don't worry, it's on the way home, and they scream, it's from post-traumatic issues as children. We had moved here. They were still in Texas. I went home. We went to Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and had a week at a friend's condo. And on the way home, we went through Denver, Wyoming, Nebraska, to whatever the national monument is there. Then from Nebraska, we went through 2-lane roads to Mingo, Kansas, and then went back to Dallas. So if you say it's on the way home, my children's eyes may glaze over still today. So it is a running joke in our family. So there are multiple sizes. So if you're going to pursue this at all, it is a free account on geocaching.com. You just go and sign up for it. There is a premium count that I think is $30 or $50 a year that does give you some features that are good if you're going to be obsessive about it. Like you can cache along a route. I can say I'm going to drive from Knoxville to Memphis, and I want every cache that is less than a half a mile off the route that I haven't found that meets this and that, and it'll give me every one of them, and I can program it into my car, and it'll drive me there. So it's got some great features. But micros are this size or smaller. This is a magnetic bolt that actually is on the back of a stop sign, is underneath bleachers in a city park. Try to find that when it's magnetic and there are a bunch of bolts sticking out, but it unscrews from the bolt. You do need a pair of tweezers or a pair of whatever the doctors would use. Some people might have used for bad things. Hemostats, yeah, for illicit activities in your trouble. But there's a log inside of it that I don't have the proper tool of the trade that has a log inside of it. You sign it, you put it back together, and put it right back where you found it. So those are micros. Smalls tend to be about this size, right? It's a fake key holder, right? So generally got something inside of it. But if it's in a bed of rocks and painted to match the other rocks, it's a nightmare. Regular sizes are these ammo cans. By the way, I didn't pull it out. It's not that podcast I was referring to. They always talk about geocaching in the news. Which bomb scare was called in this week? Because somebody had seen somebody like take something out from underneath the U.S. mailbox in downtown Seattle, right? And called it in. Some of the fun ones I think are birdhouses that are actually closed up so birds can't inhabit them. Nothing like trying to find this in the wood line, right?
Wow.
That has a container underneath it. The large one, the best large one I have seen is just down the hill in Oregon at a person's home from the original stash. It is a bathtub in their side yard. It is full of 35 millimeter canisters. And only one of the 35 millimeter canister has the log in it. And generally, the story is, if you stop to find it, the homeowner starts to bake cookies. And once you found that the cookies are generally done, they have cookies for you. So, different sizes, different difficulty and terrain. So if you're gonna do this with grandkids or your children, it is really important to pay attention to this. You see the stars, right? It goes from a half a star to 5 stars on the difficulty and the terrain. 1 star difficulty, 1 star terrain is really important to pay attention to. 5 5s, there is a great one over in Morgan County, right off the Obed River. There's an abandoned train tunnel. If you're familiar with that train tunnel, it's a big jeeping area, off-roading. There's a brand new tunnel right beside it. So the train's running through it. It's hidden in the middle of the abandoned train tunnel that Jeeps run through. So occasionally you'll see a light headed at you and the train's running through the other tunnel. All right, it's called Geo Mojo 14 Hidden Treasures. So if you've seen the Hidden Treasures movie where he's in Philadelphia, he's looking across the tower and he sees the hidden brick with the square and compass of the Masons. There is a stone in the middle of the train tunnel that has the square and compass on it, and you need a black light because it's got iridescent paint. So you have to have a special tool. You're in total darkness and standing knee deep water, right, to find this geocache. So a lot of fun. That is my 3,000th cache find, by the way. So we went to that. I had tried to find it 4 different times, and I took an archaeologist with me the last 2 times. And he was obsessed, man. He was like, coming back. So the only Boy Scout things I'll show in here is this is what we use inside when I taught geocaching merit badge. So, you know, how many know Pokemon Go, right? That would not have taken off without geocaching. So you need a GPS receiver to play the game, or now a GPS enabled device, right? So there's an app, it's free. So you can download it, but if you're going to use a GPS receiver, any one of them will do. You need to know how to use a GPS receiver. Most of them are dual access, not 3 access, right? So you need to know how to use it. So there are 24 to 30 satellites in our system at the time that I did this, and who knows how many there are now. And plus you have the Russian satellite systems that some of the GPS companies, well, Garmin is the only GPS company today. They have taken everybody else out of the market. But today's receivers will use both systems, which is great. So you need those to triangulate 3 to 4 of them. And if you've ever flown across country to, say, Seattle to find the 8 cache, when you turn on your GPS receiver, it takes like 10 minutes to like pick up the satellites because it thought you were in Nashville at the time. So it's interesting. The more GPSs it picks up, the better your accuracy becomes. So that's part of a STEM-based boring merit badge. The kids are like, can we just go geocaching? No, we're going to teach you about the universal translocator, how to calculate a grid. So you need to know, even with a cell phone, right? Because cell phones cause interference. Weather, buildings, trees, canyons, right? That it'll cause interference. And no GPS or phone is 100% accurate. If you ever decide to get like obsessed and you decide to hide one, don't use the phone to mark the coordinates. That is really bad. And then, once you get into within about 20 feet, we say put the receiver down, the phone down, and use your GeoSense. Because if I 20% to accurate over here, and you come in with yours and we're 20% accurate, now you're in this 40-foot range, and it's time to go to work and start trying to figure out where it's at. So again, download the app. The great thing about the app is it has satellite imagery. So you really can just go, okay, go to this geocache, switch to satellite maps, scroll in and go, okay, it's in the back corner of this Walmart parking lot, right? So it's a lot of fun. Or it's easier. So once you find it, what do you do with it? You sign the logbook. Every one of them, if it's a physical container, has a log inside of it in some way. So you're supposed to sign that you were there. If you're trying to cache in all 95 counties of the state of Tennessee, right, you may want to, first of all, find a second one, because your cache owner could come back and say, well, you didn't find it in Unicoi County, and I'm going to delete your find. And you look over here, and now you got to go back to Unicoi. So signing it is important. And then this is where the kids come in, right? Like, ooh, there's stuff to trade, right? So at some point, Grace and Luke were like, yeah, it's just the same old McDonald's toys. But early on, they were like all into like, ooh, what can we trade in it, right? There are trackables inside of it. So they have a unique code to themselves. So trackables are not to be collected, they're to be picked up and taken to the next geocache and marked or dropped off, or you can just discover them. So they have tags, geotags, or they have geocoins. So that's just a few of them. If you want to see stuff afterwards, feel free. So that's what's inside of them. So, and then put the geocache back where you found it. Don't re-hide it better than you think, oh, this should have been hidden differently. That is bad. I will say, Cache Across America series, when we started it, we went to Alabama, the highest point in Alabama. Apparently somebody's proud of that. Do you know where it's at? Yes. Well, somebody had moved it.
The mountain?
No, they had moved the geocache. We came back about 8 years later to find it again, and we finally found it. So put it back where you found it, and then log your find online. Some geocachers play the games the way they want to. They don't even log them on the phone. Back in the day when you printed these things out and used MapQuest, and you literally printed out the web page and read people's notes and stuff. Some people just didn't go back. And you can take photos and post comments and get them favorite points a day. So key things, always bring a pen. There's not necessarily going to be a pen inside of the container, particularly an ammo can that is this size. There is no place to put a pen in. Oh, but it does have a log. I will say the Georgia Cache Across America, we found it and I had not brought a pen in, and they were super young and I wasn't hiking back out, so I found the sticker bush and we left them a DNA sample. I signed the log, my gosh, but we did not. It does say when you get there, you get to ground zero to the GZ, start looking for it. And then it says somebody co-opted Harry Potter. We call non-cachers muggles. So be careful of muggles, because they'll come up, not know what they're doing, and just take it. Or call the cops. Calling a nice bomb scare for you. If you can't find it, that's a good thing. Mark it that you can't find it. Because it tells the cache owner there could be a problem. No cache should ever be buried, so you don't need to dig. And then, as with any kind of outdoor enthusiast, we practice leaving no trace. So caching, they call it cache in, trash out. So we always carry something to pick up trash and leave the place better than we found it. All right, so it's 12:49. We have very few minutes, but here are a couple of war stories. I lay the Boy Scouts for my addiction. It was a staff assignment in 2009. We were getting ready for the centennial of the organization. They decided to launch this merit badge, but they also knew that families that were in this sport, this hobby, had kids that were most likely our target market. And we also knew that there were alumni out there that we could reconnect with. And if any university ran their alumni program like we do or did, they just wouldn't have any money. So that was a tactic. So the 8 Challenge, by the way, in 2001, the Planet of the Apes movie, they put out 14 of these 8 challenge caches across the globe, and there was a movie prop in it. So this one is in Seattle called the Tunnel of Light, and there was a torch in it from the movie set, and whoever got there first got to keep the torch. And it's been there forever. Of the 14, there are only 2 left out there, this one in Seattle and one in Brazil. Grace was really trying to get us to go to the Olympics in Brazil so that I could get that geocache. It didn't work, but I wanted to go. Geo Woodstocks, there are a lot of events across the globe. A mega event has to have more than 5,000 cachers at it. And we've been to probably half a dozen of those across the country. And so there are vendors selling all kinds of stuff. It's just like any other kind of event. And then Cache Across America is a series that is a specific geocache in every state. One in every state, you have to find that one specifically, take a picture with the container, and there's a code in it. And once you get all 50 and the codes add up to a series of coordinates inside of Washington, D.C., I think it's just about 50 that have found it so far. And it's been there for, 10 years now. But I started as a joke with Amy. I was like, well, we won't do it unless you and I are together, and we'll see if we get them done before we're alive. At some point, I started tracking the miles. So this is the picture that we take and mark. And now the kids understand that they're not going to Hawaii and Alaska with us unless they're at the other 48. So as of today, we are left to the Pacific Northwest, Wisconsin, and just a couple in the mid-Atlantic. And that's the first one. That's Tennessee. If you look at the kids, Luke's got a really bad haircut. It looks like I did it, but I didn't. We paid somebody to do it. So we have this for every one of them, but the Cache Across America, since we started it, has become this family album for us. So it's been a great hobby. It has put us on the road. I think we hit about 4 of them this summer together. It's caused us to travel as a family. It's kept the kids close to us when maybe other kids their age don't want to have anything to do with their parents, maybe at 22 and 19. But it is a lot of fun, and we have 8 minutes left according to your watch. So now 7. So I'll take any questions. That was fast and furious. If anybody else want to admit they're a geocacher in the room, you can go to the website real quick.
So I'm gonna ask a question. while you're looking
Yes.
at that. I see that it's global, but what continents are you not in?
I think probably the communist countries, but Germany is like, they're nutso. You know how to. You need this. It's not. Germany is like ridiculously crazy, but I think they're on every continent, I'm assuming.
What happens when
when the log gets filled up?
Thank you.
I wondered.
A lot of cashiers just kind of do the maintenance and will put a new log in, or they'll say the log is full, the log is wet. If you didn't know, National Geographic brand paper is sold at REI that's right in the rain paper that you can print through a printer. Sandy?
Is it on private property?
Great, you are supposed to have landowner permission to publish one. You cannot put it on federal property. You can't put it on a military installation. There's this thing called, proximity, so you can't have one more than 500 and, how many feet are in a mile? You can't have more than one, you can't have one more than 528 feet closer to the other one. But there are, a variety of cache types. So there are virtual caches, there are earth caches. The earth caches are middle school age, science, learning. So you go to somewhere in the national park, because there are definitely ones inside the Smokies that are earth caches, and you have to answer 3 or 4 questions and send them to the owner that you've learned this middle school earth science lesson and answered this question to be able to then log it and get credit for it. You can't have them close to train tracks. Like there's a litany of like things you can't do.
The train tunnels.
Are the Knoxvillian cashers getting into discussion on who gets to put the first one in the new baseball park?
Oh, I don't know. If there is one inside, I looked at where the closest to the hotel was. There's one right behind this, on the street with the condos, I guess. And then there's one inside Visit Knoxville that's actually inside the building. There's a huge geotourism piece to the puzzle. Groundspeak, the holding company, will work with a tourism group and charge them to create a geo trail. So the whiskey trails, the bourbon tours in South Central Tennessee, there's a bunch of them that are that way. For the anniversary of the World's Fair, the Boy Scouts, because we had an event at UT, we worked with them on a 10-stop series for the anniversary of the World's Fair. All the Smoky statues are a series. So.
How many caches have you put up?
Oh, put out, I can't even begin to tell you, because where I've lived with the Boy Scouts, I've like either archived them or transferred ownership. So I'm gonna go with 300 to 400. Because at one point I had a series called the Merit Badge series, when it was a rails to trails, and every 528 feet I had another Merit Badge. So there were 100 just in that series.
There's nothing to end here.
Thank you. This is my personal, if you scroll back up real quick, so it'll show you that I have 3,600, scroll down slowly. That's every county I've cashed in. When we moved to Texas, I was like, there's no way. We had 20 something left in Tennessee, and I was just like, we're never gonna do Texas.
You did a road trip to El Paso?
Texas has to, well, we came back from Philmont to Dallas. But I started, and I think we have 254. I think I have like 190 or something. But it's not so. My best year is 2011. I have 265 in one day. But I have 0 in 2025. I had 25 last year, right? Like life gets in the way.
Great.
David, thank you for enlightening us. That's really fascinating. And while we're talking about ways to, encourage family involvement and doing things like that, what a great way that you and Amy have fostered that with your own kids and continued that. So it'll be interesting to see the generation